Commander Lily Bennett looked out the viewport of the diplomatic vessel Stargazer. The vast emptiness of space stretched before her, broken only by the massive alien ship that hovered nearby. Its dark metal surface absorbed light rather than reflected it, making it look like a hole in the fabric of space itself. 2 minutes until docking, Commander, said Communications Officer Greg Peters. His voice was steady, but Lily could see the tension in his shoulders. Thank you, Greg, she replied, straightening her uniform. She had been chosen to lead this mission not because she was the highest-ranking officer available, but because psychological profiles suggested she would remain calm under pressure. Right now, that calm was being tested. The aliens called themselves the Zorlathi. They had appeared in Earth's orbit 3 days ago without warning. Their technology was clearly far beyond human capabilities. They could have attacked immediately, but instead, they had requested a diplomatic meeting. This gave Earth hope, but also time to worry. Are you sure I can't convince you to bring more security? Asked Alan Murphy, the science officer who would be joining her. He glanced at the single guard who would accompany them. We're bringing ideas and words, not weapons, Lily said. Besides, if they wanted to harm us, no amount of security would make a difference. The ship shuddered slightly as the docking procedure completed. A soft hiss indicated that the airlocks had connected and pressures were equalizing. Remember, Lily told her small team as they gathered at the airlock, observe everything, show respect, but don't show fear. We represent all of humanity today. The War airlock door slid open to reveal a long corridor made of the same light-absorbing material as the ship's exterior. The air that rushed in was breathable but had a strange metallic scent. At the far end stood 3 figures waiting. Lily led her team forward. Each step echoed in the empty corridor. As they got closer, she had to fight to keep her expression neutral. The Zorlathi were nothing like the humans had imagined. The aliens stood nearly 9 feet tall, their bodies covered in obsidian scales that seemed to shift color slightly when they moved. Each had 4 yellow eyes that blinked independently of each other, giving them an unsettling gaze that seemed to look everywhere at once. Their limbs were long and ended in hands with 3 fingers and an opposable thumb, each tipped with what looked like a retractable claw. I am Admiral Zrax, the center figure announced. Its voice was surprisingly smooth, though it had an odd flanging effect that made it sound like multiple voices speaking at once. Supreme Commander of the Zorlathi Exploration Fleet. Commander Lily Bennett of Earth, she replied with a slight bow. Thank you for agreeing to this meeting. Zrax's head tilted slightly. Follow. The humans were led into a large chamber that appeared to be a meeting room. A long table of some polished stone-like material dominated the center. The ceiling was high, clearly designed for the taller aliens. The lighting was dim by human standards, casting long shadows. Sit, Zrax instructed, pointing to one side of the table. Lily and her team took their seats while the 3 Zorlathi sat opposite them. Up close, Lily could see fine details in their scales, patterns that might have been natural or might have been some form of decoration or rank insignia. Your species has been observed for many cycles, Zrax began without preamble. We have intercepted your transmissions. We have studied your conflicts. We have analyzed your development rate. Greg shifted uncomfortably beside Lily. The thought of being watched without their knowledge was disturbing. We have encountered 17 other species in our journey across the stars, continued Zrax. All now exist under Zorlathi protection and guidance. Lily noted the careful choice of words. Protection and guidance could mean many things, few of them good. We are here to offer Earth the same opportunity, said the alien to Zrax's right. This one was slightly smaller, with scales that had a faint greenish tint. I am Science Director, Krell. My analysis suggests your species would benefit greatly from our superior knowledge. We appreciate the offer, Lily replied carefully. But Earth values its independence. We would prefer to establish relations as equals, sharing knowledge through cultural exchange and trade. All 12 of the aliens' eyes blinked at once. Lily couldn't tell if this was amusement, surprise, or something else entirely. You misunderstand, Zrax said. This is not a negotiation between equals. The Zorlathi do not have equals. We have those we protect and guide, and those we have not yet encountered. The third alien, who had remained silent until now, leaned forward. I am War Master Vex. My analysis of your military capabilities suggests your entire fleet could be eliminated in 2.3 of your Earth hours. Your most powerful weapons would not penetrate our weakest shields. The threat hung in the air. Alan's face had gone pale, but he kept his composure. Greg was taking notes, though his stylus trembled slightly. If that's true, Lily said, meeting Vex's gaze directly, then why bother with diplomacy at all? Why not simply take what you want? An excellent question, Zrax replied. Harvesting resources is simple. Managing thinking beings is complex. Those who accept our guidance willingly require fewer resources to control than those who resist. Zrax stood and began circling the table, moving behind where Lily sat. She refused to turn to follow his movement, keeping her eyes forward. Why? Did your species send such a small, fragile representative? Zrax asked, now standing directly behind her. His voice was so close, she could feel his breath on her neck. Do you not understand the gravity of this meeting? Size isn't everything, Lily replied evenly. Humans value intelligence and diplomatic skill over physical intimidation. Interesting, Krell noted. Most species attempt to display strength during first contact. Perhaps they do not have strength to display, Vex suggested. Or perhaps we don't feel the need to prove ourselves through displays of force, Lily countered. Zrax completed his circle and returned to his seat. Your species has one of your months to decide. Accept our protection and guidance willingly, or we will be forced to demonstrate why all 17 species before you eventually chose submission. And if we refuse both options? Lily asked. All. 3 aliens made a strange clicking sound that might have been laughter. There is no third option, Commander Bennett, Zrax said. Study your history. What happens when a technologically advanced civilization encounters a less developed one? The outcome is always the same. Human history is full of surprises, Lily said. We specialize in creating third options. You have 1 month, Zrax repeated, rising to his feet. This meeting is concluded. As the humans were escorted back to their ship, Greg leaned close to Lily. What do we do now? He whispered. Now, Lily said quietly, we prepare. They think they know us based on our transmissions and observations, but they've never actually dealt with humans before. She looked back once at the massive alien ship before entering the Stargazer. And that might be the only advantage we have. Lieutenant Ryan Clark had not expected to be chosen. He was an engineer, not a diplomat. Yet here he was, being escorted through the massive Zorlathi mothership, surrounded by aliens twice his size. The human appears nervous, said one guard, to another in their clicking language. They didn't know Ryan understood them. The translation device hidden in his ear had been developed based on the first contact recordings. I would be too if I were about to meet scientist Kira, the other replied. Ryan kept his face neutral. He had been selected for this assessment because of his unique background. Before joining the military, he had survived a shuttle accident that killed his family. He had drifted alone in space for 3 weeks before rescue. Psychological evaluations showed this experience had changed how he processed fear. The corridor opened into a vast chamber filled with strange equipment. In the center stood a female Zorlathi. Ryan could tell she was female by the slightly more iridescent scales and the crest that ran along her head. I am Kira, lead biological analyst, she said. Her voice was less flanged than the male Zorlathi. You are Lieutenant Ryan Clark. Yes, Ryan said simply. Do you know why you are here? Kira moved closer, her 4 yellow eyes studying him intensely. Your people want to understand humans better before they decide whether to destroy us, Ryan answered bluntly. Kira made that clicking sound that might have been laughter. Direct. Interesting. Most species attempt to negotiate even when there is nothing to negotiate. She gestured to what looked like a metal table. Remove your outer garments and lie down. Ryan hesitated only briefly before removing his uniform jacket and shirt. He kept his pants on and lay on the cold metal surface. Your heart rate is elevated but within normal parameters for stress, Kira observed. Looking at a display Ryan couldn't see. You understand your situation yet do not show extreme fear. Explain. Ryan looked at the ceiling. Fear doesn't help you survive. Actions do. An interesting perspective, Kira said. Most species we encounter are driven primarily by fear. It makes them predictable. She pressed something on a console. The table Ryan lay on suddenly tilted vertical, becoming a wall he had to brace against to avoid falling. This begins your assessment, Kira explained. I will place you in scenarios designed to test human physical and psychological limits. Your outcomes will help determine Earth's fate. The next 12 hours were brutal. Ryan was subjected to tests of endurance, pain tolerance, problem-solving under duress, and reaction to various atmospheres. He was not allowed to rest or eat. The only constant was Kira, watching and recording everything. During one particularly challenging test, Ryan was locked in a chamber slowly filling with a greenish gas. This atmosphere contains elements toxic to human biology. Kira's voice came through a speaker. You have 3 minutes before permanent damage occurs. 5 minutes until death. The chamber contains items you may use. Solve the problem. Ryan looked around frantically. The chamber held various alien tools and materials. None looked like breathing equipment. The gas was already making his eyes water. Instead of panicking, Ryan grabbed what looked like a power tool and a container of thick gel. He quickly smeared the gel over a section of the wall where he had noticed subtle air current. Using the tool, he cut into the wall, revealing a small air duct. He then tore strips from his uniform pants, soaked them in the remaining gel, and stuffed them around the opening, creating a makeshift air filter. Pressing his face to the opening, he could breathe cleaner air from the ventilation system. When the chamber door finally opened, Ryan stumbled out, coughing but alive. Kira stood there, her head tilted. You should have failed that test, she said. The atmospheric composition was lethal. Sometimes you have to rewrite the rules to survive, Ryan responded with a shrug. Explain, Kira demanded. Ryan leaned against the wall for support. The test was to see if I could find breathing equipment. There wasn't any. So I found air instead. That approach was not in our predictive models, Kira admitted. She made notes on her device. Rest. We continue in 1 hour. Ryan was taken to a small cell with a cot. As exhausted as he was, he forced himself to stay awake and observe his surroundings. The cell had a small vent similar to the one he had found in the test chamber. He studied it carefully, memorizing what he could see of the ventilation system. When Kira returned, she brought a container of water and some sort of nutrient paste. Consume these. Maintain your functionality. As Ryan ate the bland paste, he decided to take a risk. Why do the Zorlathi conquer other species? What do you gain? Kira's eyes blinked in sequence rather than all at once. We do not conquer. We protect and guide. Against what? Ryan asked. Against extinction, Kira replied. Before the Great Famine, the Zorlathi were not so different from humans. We explored, we learned, we grew. Then our sun began to die earlier than expected. Resources became scarce. Only the strongest survived, so you became predators, Ryan observed. We became survivors, Kira corrected, and we ensure the survival of species that would otherwise destroy themselves, as yours might, by forcing them to submit. By guiding them away from their own self-destructive tendencies, Kira said. Your species fights endless wars over resources that could be shared. You damage your own planet's systems. Without intervention, humanity has a 47% chance of self-extinction within 300 years. Ryan finished his water. And with your intervention? 0% chance of extinction. 100% chance of serving the Zorlathi Empire. Kira's voice was matter-of-fact. That's not survival, Ryan said quietly. That's just a different kind of death. Kira's head tilted again. An intriguing perspective. Most species choose existence at any cost. She led him to another testing chamber. This one contained what looked like a maze made of transparent barriers. Your final test, Kira explained. Find the exit before the floor becomes energized. Failure will result in significant pain. As Ryan navigated the complex maze, he noticed something interesting. The Zorlathi technology, advanced as it was, followed patterns. Their systems had logic he could begin to understand. And if he could understand it, perhaps he could use it. When he reached the exit with seconds to spare, Kira was waiting. You perform beyond our models for your species, she said. This requires further analysis. As she led him back to his cell, Ryan made his decision. Tonight, when the ship's systems showed reduced activity patterns, he would attempt to access their network. It was probably impossible. It was definitely dangerous. But as he had told Kira, sometimes you had to rewrite the rules to survive, and humanity's survival might depend on what he could learn inside this alien fortress. Commander Lily Bennett stared at the screen in disbelief. The message had come through a secure channel from one of Earth's most influential leaders. This can't be right, she said to Greg, who stood beside her in the small communication room of the Stargazer. I'm afraid it is, Commander, Greg replied. Director Paul Wilson has convinced several world leaders that resistance is futile. They're preparing to accept the Zorlathi terms without a fight. Lily slammed her fist on the console. We still have 2 weeks before their deadline. Ryan hasn't even returned with his assessment data yet. That's the problem, Alan said as he entered the room. Many believe Ryan won't return at all. And without concrete intelligence on Zorlathi weaknesses, Wilson argues that fighting would only lead to unnecessary human casualties. Lily turned to look out the viewport at Earth below. From here it looked so peaceful, so unaware of the political storm brewing on its surface. Set up a direct call with Director Wilson, she ordered. I want to hear his reasoning myself. Meanwhile, aboard the Zorlathi mothership, Ryan Clark was putting his plan into action. The ship had entered its night cycle when fewer crew members were active. Using skills from his engineering background, Ryan had managed to remove a small panel near the air vent in his cell. The Zorlathi technology was advanced, but it still required power routing and data transmission systems similar in concept to human technology. Ryan had observed enough during his testing to understand some basics. He carefully extended a thin metal strip he had salvaged from his boot into what appeared to be a data junction. If he was right, this would give him access to the ship's information network. If he was wrong, it might trigger an alarm or worse. The panel beside the vent suddenly illuminated with alien symbols. Ryan held his breath. No alarm sounded. He had access. Using the translation program in his hidden earpiece, Ryan began navigating through the Zorlathi system. Most areas were incomprehensible or locked, but he managed to find what appeared to be a ship registry. What he saw made his heart race. The Zorlathi had claimed to have a fleet of over 200 vessels. According to this registry, they only had 27. The rest were automated drones or holographic projections designed to intimidate. They're bluffing, Ryan whispered, to himself. He continued searching and found something else. Internal communications between Admiral Zarax and the Zorlathi High Command. They were concerned about stretched resources. The conquest of Earth was meant to provide new territory and labor for an empire that was expanding too quickly. As Ryan downloaded the data to his concealed device, the cell door slid open. He quickly pushed the panel back in place and turned to face his visitor. It was Kira. Her scales reflected the dim light as she entered the cell. You should be resting, she said. Your final evaluation is tomorrow. Ryan tried to appear casual. Just thinking about home. Kira tilted her head in that now familiar gesture of curiosity. You miss your planet despite its flaws? It's not perfect, but it's ours, Ryan replied. We should have the right to make our own mistakes. Kira was silent for a moment. Then she did something unexpected. She checked the corridor outside, then closed the door. What I am about to tell you violates my duty, she said quietly. But I have observed you for 7 days now, and you are not what our leaders claim humans to be. Ryan stayed silent, waiting. The Zorlathi are not united in their conquest policy, Kira continued. There is a growing movement among our younger generations who believe we have become what we once feared, conquerors rather than survivors. Why are you telling me this? Ryan asked carefully. Because tomorrow Admiral Zrax will review my findings. Based on standard protocols, I should recommend immediate subjugation of Earth. Kira's four eyes blinked in sequence. But my data suggests humans possess qualities the Zorlathi have lost. Adaptability, creativity, compassion, even toward enemies. Ryan took a risk. I know your fleet is smaller than you claim. I know your resources are stretched thin. Kira's scales flared in surprise. How could you possibly? She stopped, then looked at the vent. You accessed our network. Impossible. Not impossible, just improbable, Ryan said. Just like it's improbable that a scientist would betray her people to help a test subject. I'm not betraying my people, Kira said firmly. I'm trying to save them from becoming worse than the emptiness of space we once feared. We were explorers once, before fear made us conquerors. Back on Earth, Lily's call with Director Wilson was not going well. Commander, I understand your desire to fight, Wilson said, his face stern on the screen. But the reality is that we cannot match their technology. 17 other species have tried and failed. So we just give up? Lily demanded. Become slaves to an alien race? Not slaves. Protected citizens, Wilson corrected. Their terms are quite generous. We maintain most of our autonomy in exchange for resources and acceptance of their authority. And, you believe them? Lily asked incredulously. Wilson sighed. What I believe doesn't matter. What matters is surviving. The Zorlathi can wipe us out with a thought. Why provoke them? After the call ended, Lily turned to her team. He's already made up his mind. And he has enough influence to sway the global response. What do we do? Alan asked. Lily was quiet for a moment. We need Ryan. We need to know what he's learned. The Zorlathi said they would return him tomorrow, Greg reminded her. If they return him at all, Alan added grimly. On the Zorlathi ship, Ryan and Kira had formed an unlikely alliance. She had confirmed much of what he had discovered and added crucial details about Zorlathi physiology. Our enhanced senses are both strength and weakness, she explained. Certain sound frequencies cause us extreme discomfort due to our inner ear structure. And your shields? Ryan asked. They pulse in a regular pattern to conserve energy. There is a millisecond gap between pulses where they are vulnerable, but it's too brief for most weapons to exploit. Ryan stored this information carefully. Why are you really helping me, Kira? She was quiet for a long moment. My brother leads the resistance movement among our people. He believes we have lost our way, that conquest has corrupted us. I dismissed him for years, but watching you these past days has made me question our path. What happens tomorrow? Ryan asked. You will be returned to your people with modified memories of your time here. At least that is what Admiral Zrax believes will happen. Kira handed him a small device. This will protect your mind from the procedure. You will remember everything. Ryan took the device. And what about you? I will do my duty as a scientist. I will report accurately what I have observed, that you are resourceful, adaptable, and that humanity may be more dangerous than we anticipated. Kira's scales shifted color slightly. What the Admiral does with that information is beyond my control. As the ship's night cycle continued, Ryan carefully stored everything he had learned. Tomorrow he would return to Earth, either as a mindless puppet delivering the Zorlathi's message of doom, or as humanity's best hope for survival. The choice had been made. The pieces were in place. Now it all depended on whether a single human, engineer and a conflicted alien scientist could change the fate of two species. The small shuttle carrying Lieutenant Ryan Clark docked with the Stargazer. Commander Lily Bennett waited anxiously as the airlock cycled. When Ryan finally stepped through, he looked exhausted but alert. Welcome back, Lieutenant, Lily said, formally aware of the Zorlathi observers who had escorted him. Thank you, Commander, Ryan replied with equal formality. His eyes, however, told her he had much to say. The Zorlathi escort departed, and as soon as their shuttle disengaged, Lily led Ryan to the secure briefing room where Greg and Alan waited. "Were you compromised?" Lily asked immediately when the door sealed. Ryan shook his head. "They tried to alter my memories, but I had protection." He removed the small device Kira had given him from behind his ear. "Alien tech?" Alan asked, leaning forward with interest. "From someone who wants to help," Ryan said. "We don't have much time. The Zorlathi deadline is in 8 days, and Director Wilson is already preparing Earth for surrender." Ryan quickly shared everything he had learned. The truth about the Zorlathi fleet's smaller size, their resource limitations, their physiological weakness to certain sound frequencies, and the shield vulnerability. "This changes everything," Greg said excitedly. "Only if we can convince the right people," Lily cautioned. "Wilson has significant influence. Many world leaders already support his position." "Then we don't go through official channels," Ryan suggested. "We take action ourselves." "What are you proposing?" Alan asked. Ryan's eyes were determined. "Something they won't expect. We challenge them directly." Back on Earth, Director Paul Wilson addressed the United Global Council. His silver hair and confident bearing gave him an air of authority as he spoke. "The Zorlathi representatives have assured me that Earth will maintain its cultural identity under their protection," he said to the assembled leaders. "We will be required to provide certain resources and accept their guidance, but day to day, governance will remain largely in our hands." A council member from Japan stood. "And we are simply to take their word for this? What guarantee do we have they won't change the terms once we surrender?" "The alternative is extinction," Wilson replied, flatly. "Their technology is centuries beyond ours. Fighting would be suicide." "Has anyone actually confirmed their military capabilities?" asked another council member. "Or are we relying solely on their claims?" Wilson's expression tightened. "We have satellite imagery of their fleet. We've witnessed demonstrations of their weapons." Lieutenant Clark spent a week aboard their vessel and returned with reports confirming their power. This was a lie. Wilson had not yet debriefed Ryan, but he assumed the lieutenant would support his position after being subjected to Zorlathi influence. "I propose we vote now on accepting their terms," Wilson continued, "before any rash actions jeopardize the arrangement." On the Stargazer, Lily reviewed Ryan's plan with growing amazement. "This is incredibly risky," she said. "If you're wrong about any detail—" "I'm not wrong," Ryan interrupted. "Kira confirmed everything I discovered in their systems. The Zorlathi rely on intimidation because they can't afford a prolonged conflict. They're stretched too thin across too many star systems." "Even if what you say is true," Alan argued, "we can't just challenge an alien admiral to single combat. It's absurd." "Actually, we can," Ryan insisted. "Their military code is sacred to them. Article 7 states that representatives of contested worlds can challenge their would-be conquerors directly. It's rarely invoked because most species are too intimidated, but it's their law." "And if we win this challenge?" Greg asked. "They must leave our solar system and never return," Ryan said. "Their honor code forbids breaking such agreements. It's how they maintain control over 17 different species, the belief that Zorlathi always keep their word." Lily paced the small room. "Who would make this challenge? You?" Ryan shook his head. "It has to be you, Commander. You're Earth's official representative to the Zorlathi. Only you can invoke Article 7. Lily stopped pacing. "I'm not a warrior, Ryan. Admiral Zrax is 3 times my size." "Size isn't everything," Ryan said, echoing Lily's own words from the first contact. "This isn't about physical strength. It's about exploiting their weaknesses, the sound frequency vulnerability, their predictable attack patterns, their arrogance." "I'll need training," Lily said after a moment's thought. "Already planned for," Ryan assured her. "But first, we need to bypass Wilson and contact Admiral Zrax directly." On the Zorlathi mothership, Kira stood before Admiral Zrax, presenting her findings on Ryan Clark. The human demonstrated unexpected problem-solving abilities. she reported. Their adaptability exceeds our predictive models. Are they a threat? Zrax demanded. Not technologically, Kira answered carefully. But they think differently than other species we've encountered. They do not respond to fear in predictable ways. War Master Vex, who had been listening, made a dismissive gesture. All species fear death. Yes, Kira agreed, but humans channel their fear differently. They become more creative, more determined when threatened, not less. Interesting but irrelevant, Zrax declared. Their leaders are already preparing to submit. Our strategy worked, as it always does. As the meeting concluded, Kira received an alert on her communication device. A direct message from the human ship had bypassed the normal channels. It was addressed specifically to her. 3 hours later, Zrax was interrupted during his rest period by an urgent message. The human commander demands direct communication, his aide reported. Denies? Zrax corrected. Surely you mean requests? No. Admiral, she demands, citing Article 7 of our military code. Zrax's scales darkened with anger. Impossible. How would they know of Article 7? Nevertheless, he activated the communication screen. Commander Lily Bennett's face appeared, looking calm and determined. Admiral Zrax, she said, I invoke Article 7 of your military code. I challenge you personally, as is my right as Earth's representative. The bridge crew fell silent. Such a challenge had not been made in 7 generations. You dare invoke our sacred traditions? Zrax growled, his facial ridges darkening further. I do, Lily replied steadily, unless you're afraid to face a small, fragile human. The insult hung in the air. Zrax could not refuse without losing face before his crew. I accept your challenge, he said finally. The combat will take place in 3 of your Earth days on Ito, neutral ground. The decommissioned space station orbiting Earth's moon, Lily suggested. No weapons, no assistance. The first to yield or become incapacitated loses. And the terms? Zrax asked, still visibly angry. If you win, Earth surrenders. Immediately, Lily said. If I win, the Zorlathi leave our solar system forever and remove Earth from your expansion plans. Zrax's mouth curved in what might have been a smile. Agreed, Commander. Prepare yourself for defeat. When the communication ended, Lily turned to her team. 3 days to prepare, let's get to work. Ryan nodded grimly. The fate of Earth now rests on a single combat that seems impossible to win. Humans specialize in impossible situations, Lily reminded him. Now tell me everything you know about Zorlathi fighting techniques. On Earth, Director Wilson received news of the challenge with disbelief and rage. She's doomed us all, he told his aides. We need to stop this madness before it's too late. But the news of Lily's challenge had already spread worldwide, igniting something Wilson hadn't anticipated. Hope. For the first time since the Zorlathi arrived, humanity had found its courage again. The decommissioned space station orbiting Earth's moon had been transformed into an arena. Its observation deck, once used for stargazing, now served as the battleground where humanity's fate would be decided. Commander Lily Bennett stood at one end of the deck dressed in a simple, flexible combat suit. The artificial gravity had been reduced to 60% of Earth normal, a compromise between human and Zorlathi preference. Ryan Clark stood nearby as her second, as required by Zorlathi tradition. Across the deck, Admiral Zrax towered over everyone, his obsidian scales gleaming under the lights. Kira stood as his reluctant second, her eyes meeting Ryan's briefly. Representatives from both Earth and the Zorlathi fleet watched through secure transmissions. Even Director Wilson, despite his opposition to this challenge, observed from his office. The terms are agreed upon, announced a neutral Zorlathi official. Combat continues until one participant yields or becomes incapacitated. No weapons. No outside assistance. If Admiral Zrax wins, Earth submits immediately to Zorlathi rule. If Commander Bennett wins, the Zorlathi will leave Earth's solar system permanently. Lily took a deep breath. For 3 days she had trained intensively with Ryan, learning everything he knew about Zorlathi fighting techniques and weaknesses. Remember, Ryan whispered to her. He's stronger, but slower. Use the lower gravity to your advantage. Combat begins, the official declared, stepping back. Zrax wasted no time. He charged across the deck with surprising speed for his size. Lily barely dodged his first strike, rolling away as his clawed hand swept through the air where she had been standing. Using the lower gravity, Lily leaped higher than would be possible on Earth, avoiding Zrax's next attack. The Admiral growled in frustration. "Stand and fight, human," he demanded. "You fight your way, I'll fight mine," Lily replied, using her smaller size and the reduced gravity to stay mobile. Zrax's fighting style relied on overwhelming force, a direct approach that had worked against 17 other species. But Lily refused to engage directly, using the entire deck as her battlefield, keeping distance between them. The pattern continued for several minutes. Zrax would charge, Lily would evade. To the Zorlathi observers, it might have looked like cowardice, but Ryan recognized her strategy. She was studying her opponent, learning his movements while conserving her energy. Zrax, meanwhile, was growing increasingly frustrated and less controlled in his attacks. Finally, Lily miscalculated. Zrax anticipated her movement and cut her off, his massive arm catching her mid-dodge. The blow sent her flying across the deck, crashing hard against a support beam. Pain exploded across her ribs. She struggled to her feet as Zrax approached more slowly now, confident in his advantage. "Your species is clever," he admitted, "but ultimately weak. This is the natural order. The strong protect and rule the weak." Lily wiped blood from her lip. "Is that what you tell yourselves to justify conquest?" "It is the truth of the universe," Zrax replied. 17 species have learned this lesson, and yet here you are fighting one human instead of simply taking what you want," Lily noted. "Why follow rules at all if might makes right?" Zrax hesitated, and Lily used that moment to dart away again, but this time she moved differently, deliberately putting herself in a position where Zrax could corner her. The Admiral saw his opportunity and lunged forward, pinning Lily against the wall with nowhere to escape. "Why aren't you afraid, human?" Zrax hissed, his face inches from hers. "You should be begging for mercy." Lily smiled despite the pain. "Because humans have never needed to be the strongest to survive. We've always been surrounded by predators, faster and stronger than us, but we're still here." "How?" Zrax demanded, genuinely puzzled. "We learned to be smarter than our fears," Lily replied. With those words, she pressed a small device hidden in her hand. A high-pitched sound, inaudible to human ears, filled the chamber. The frequency, precisely calibrated to affect Zorlathi inner ear structure, caused Zrax to stumble backward, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly in disorientation. Ryan had helped her create the device based on the information from Kira. It wasn't a weapon in the traditional sense, just sound waves at a specific frequency. While Zrax struggled to maintain his balance, Lily pressed her advantage. Using techniques Ryan had taught her, she targeted vulnerable points on the Admiral's body, joints where the protective scales were thinner. Zrax roared in pain and anger, swinging wildly. One blow caught Lily's shoulder, sending her sprawling. The sound device slid across the floor out of reach. Zrax recovered quickly once the sound stopped. He advanced on Lily, who was struggling to stand. A clever trick, he acknowledged, but not enough. In the observation area, Ryan turned to Kira. "This isn't right. Your people value honor. Is this an honorable victory?" Kira's scales shifted color slightly. "The rules allowed no weapons." "It's just sound," Ryan argued. "No different than using your natural advantages." Kira seemed conflicted, but remained silent. On the deck, Zrax had cornered Lily again. She was clearly injured, one arm hanging awkwardly at her side. "Your defeat was inevitable," Zrax said. "Submit and I will end this without further pain." Lily looked up at him, blood trickling from a cut above her eye. Then something unexpected happened. She smiled. "This was never about physical strength," she said. "It was about understanding your enemy better than they understand themselves." Her uninjured hand pressed another hidden button on her combat suit. Suddenly, every communication screen in the station displayed data, the true size of the Zorlathi fleet, their resource limitations, their overextended empire. "What is this?" Zrax demanded. "Insurance," Lily replied. "Everything we discovered about your empire is now being transmitted to every species under your control. They'll all know the truth, that the mighty Zorlathi aren't as powerful as they claim." Zrax's scales darkened with rage. He raised his hand to strike her down, and then the second device activated. This one, concealed in the ceiling, emitted the sound frequency at much higher intensity. Zrax collapsed to his knees, his inner ear structure overwhelmed by the precisely targeted sound waves. Lily managed to stand, though clearly in pain. "Yield," she said simply. For a long moment, Zrax remained on his knees, his proud head bowed in disbelief. Finally, he spoke the words no one expected to hear. "I yield," he said, his flanged voice quiet but clear. The observation deck fell silent. Then chaos erupted among the observers. The Zorlathi had never been defeated in such a challenge. After the official confirmed Zrax's surrender, Kira approached. "Ryan, you knew this would happen," she said. "That's why you contacted me." Ryan nodded. "We needed to confirm the frequency that would affect your inner ear without causing permanent damage. We didn't want to harm anyone, just win." Kira studied him with new respect. "My people will return one day, not as conquerors but as equals seeking to learn. Your response to fear, it's not something we've encountered before." "That's what makes humanity dangerous," Ryan replied. "Not our weapons or technology, but our refusal to accept limitations, especially when we're afraid." As the Zorlathi prepared to honor their agreement and leave Earth's solar system, Lily was treated for her injuries. She had 3 broken ribs, a dislocated shoulder, and numerous bruises, but she was smiling. "You know they'll tell this story differently," Greg told her as the medical team worked. "They'll say you cheated." "Let them," Lily replied. "What matters is that they'll leave us alone now." Director Wilson was among the first to contact the Stargazer. His face on the screen showed a mixture of disbelief and reluctant admiration. "I was wrong," he admitted. "I thought submission was our only option." "Fear is a powerful motivator," Lily told him, "but it makes for poor decisions." As Earth celebrated its unexpected victory, Ryan stood at a viewport, watching the massive alien ships prepare to depart. One small shuttle approached the Stargazer, requesting brief docking permission. It was Kira. She came alone to say goodbye. "My brother's movement will gain strength now," she told Ryan. "The defeat of Admiral Zrax has created an opportunity for change among my people. I hope you find your way back to being explorers rather than conquerors," Ryan said. Kira's scales shifted to a color he hadn't seen before, perhaps the Zorlathi equivalent of hope. "The universe is vast," she said. "Perhaps our paths will cross again someday." As the Zorlathi fleet vanished into deep space, humanity found itself forever changed, more united, more determined to claim its place among the stars. And somewhere, in that vast darkness, the Zorlathi spread whispered warnings about the small resilient species that turned fear itself into a weapon.